Welcome to Something Slight on Kismet Radio. I'm your host, Tara, and we're here at Private Stock with Sen Morimoto.
Hi.
Hi. Sen is a singer, multi-instrumentalist, and producer who blends jazz, hip-hop, pop, and spoken word rap. They've released 3 albums over the last few years, the latest of which is Diagnosis, which I included in my top 6 Chicago albums last year.
Top 6?
Yeah, I couldn't decide.
Damn.
Yeah.
Thank you. What an honor.
They recently dropped off the EP Bonk, and they're the co-owner of Super Records. It is such a pleasure to have you. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited. Before we get into our convo, we're going to listen to some music.
BB bitch. Soy la más mala, la más mala de España. Vaya vaina, ser la bebé. No aguantarías, ni una semana. Ponte mis zapatos, a ver si aguantas. Tengo presión por todos los lados. Soy una G, eso no es no. Me salió Snake, ese no está. La lealtad, eso sí está. Tú eres un malo, y eso no es mala. Dime qué hacemos, a ver si volvemos. Voy para adelante, nunca para atrás. A ver si me llega, creo. Todos los días me pongo a contar. Pierdo amigos por hacer tantos racks. Soy la más mana, siempre con ganas. Tú eres un soso, yo me creo sosa. Al menos Dios sabe que yo soy una G. Me da igual lo que la gente piense de mí. Yo ando curiosa, hoy estoy detrás de ti. Él puede querer a otras, a ninguna como a mí. Tengo presión por todos los lados. Soy una G, eso no es no. Me salió Snake, ese no está. La lealtad, eso sí está. Tú eres un malo, y eso no es mala. Dime qué hacemos, a ver si volvemos. Voy para adelante, nunca para atrás. A ver si me llega, a ver si me llega. Prime.
I got the 55 on the 55, man. 100 miles on the 100 miles, man. We can fly, baby, we can fly, man. Homicide, homicide, man. 55 on the 55, man. 100 miles on the 100 miles, man. We can fly, baby, we can fly, man. Homicide, homicide, man. Lost girls in my basement, got a couple gold chains in my baseline. That's what I'm saying, though, is what I'm on. Don't make sense if I don't make none. I got sweat on my tongue, won't lift the chain if the back ain't done. Granddaddy James, where I got the game from. I'll show you what the flames on. See, I'm not doing 55 on the 55, and I'm not doing 100 miles on the 100 mile. I ain't dabbling in funny times, so let's get tight. Promise if we get right, baby, we can fly. Put you in a Mustang, baby, you can drive. Put you in the white range, you do what you like. Skin soaked and bathed, the coating's sublime. I just treat it first, so it's nice. I just keep the sweat so the chance pay me. And when the face, so I keep dust near me. Scott's power, run it for the 2-tone chart. I've been keeping diamonds in my crutch lately. Boy with the barrel stump, ink laced on my tips when the barrel dumps. Keep a chamber filled with potent stuff. Straight drop, run it for me, baby, please don't stop. Lost girls in my basement, got a couple gold chains in my baseline. That's what I'm saying, though, is what I'm on. Don't make sense if I don't make none. I got sweat on my tongue, won't lift the chain brain if the back ain't done. Granddaddy James, where I got the game front. Da da, show you what the flames on.
Okay, so I love your origin story. Born in Kyoto, and then you lived in a Volkswagen bus?
Yeah, we moved to the States like a little bit after I was born, and just kind of traveled across the country till we ended up, I think we landed in California, ended up in this Volkswagen bus, and we lived in that. I was a baby, so I don't really remember. I remember the bus. To you, right. Yeah. I remember the bus when we got to the East Coast where I grew up.
Okay. And why Massachusetts?
I think my mom was a midwife, and some of her friends who were doing midwifery with her, like before I was born in El Paso, were in Massachusetts. So they just kind of like drove across the country with us as kids and ended up there and found this really sweet little town of hippies where I grew up and decided to stay.
You were just like, oh, cool. Like, this seems like a good place to park.
Yeah, I guess so. My folks are very like go with the flow people, which like I think is a quality that I really appreciate about them and kind of feel in my life too. So I kind of relate to it. Like I'm trying to explain why they chose or how they ended up places, and it's just kind of like it just happened.
Yeah,
that's where we ended up growing up. Yeah,
I mean, I don't know you that well, but you feel like very like flowy, breezy sort of person. I don't know.
What if I was like, no?
I mean, fair. That's
rigidity.
Fair, because I don't know you. So like,
no, I am. Like, yeah, okay, I think so. I try to be.
Yeah, I feel that. So you've been playing music since you were a kid.
Yeah, I started playing saxophone when I was 10.
Yeah.
And sort of got into jazz through that. And then sort of started playing in more rock bands, punk bands, and started making beats in high school. And so it sort of was just like an interest in whatever I could get my hands on, and that kind of turned into what I do now, which is kind of all of that combined.
So in addition to the sax, you play?
Well, until this last record, Diagnosis, or before the EP I put out, I used to play everything on the record. So it's like sax, vocals, keys, drums, guitar, bass,
that's
production
crazy
stuff. And yeah, I mean, like I play like a little bit of each of them.
But it's still like, cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun.
Yeah.
But then, recently I've been more inclined to sort of include some of my friends and community in the recording process, because we've been touring together at this point for years. So it's kind of like the natural progression of it to sort of become a group project in that way.
Yeah, I mean, being so naturally gifted at just like being able to pick up an instrument and play it is, I don't know, it's just really sick.
It's cool. I
mean, like you're just like good at it, so you're not even thinking about the fact that you do it. I just don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like I think like within a musical community or like around other musicians, like I don't necessarily feel that way because it's so rudimentary. Like I'm just really what I feel like my skill that I've developed over like whatever, I don't know, 12, 13 years of doing music stuff is that like I have a good sense of what I like and I can find stuff by experimenting, a lot of trial and error. And I have like developed a sound on all these instruments, but I wouldn't be like to a guitarist like I play guitar, you know. They would be like, you don't really play guitar,
okay,
you know.
that's fair.
So it's, I don't know, I don't really feel that way necessarily about the instrumentation, but I do appreciate the time I've spent like cultivating a certain type of sound.
So were you playing sax in punk bands?
It was kind of all different stuff depending on the instrument. So which is kind of how like I guess my sound developed, because I could only play each of these instruments like to the type of music I learned them to. So like I was playing drums in some punk bands and you know, playing guitar in like indie rock stuff and playing sax with jazz. And so those elements, like when you listen to one of my records, you might be like, oh, it's cool, like the sax is very jazz forward, but the rest of the song is kind of more like an indie song. So it's just because that's how I can play each of those instruments, you know?
Oh, that's really interesting. I never really thought of that being a thing.
I spend too much time thinking about it because I'm like, why does it sound, why, you know, because I can't help it. Like I'm never sitting down trying to make a song sound a certain way. It's just kind of like what comes out. And I'm always like, why do you sound like this?
But that's really cool. I don't think I've ever heard anybody, I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe I haven't talked to that many people who play that many instruments, but to play in a certain genre.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the folks I meet who play a lot of instruments are like, you know, kind of like, I don't know what the word is, like whiz kid, like prodigy kids. And so that's like, I feel like a whole other thing than me, where they're like, just like everything they touch, they can like shred the same degree. I'm just sort of like, I've been collecting my little sounds over the years, you know, little things I can do on each instrument. And it's more so about like writing the song for me. That's what I get the joy out of.
Yeah. Cool. So how did you end up in Chicago?
I was taking a year off after high school, the never-ending year of post-high school. And I was just making my little beats, making my music. I was living on a farm with some friends, and my girlfriend at the time was living in Chicago, going to the Art Institute. And so I came to visit, and I went to this party, and this painter was like, hey, I got a room in my apartment. Come live here. Then you can be closer to your person. And I didn't know what else I was hoping to do in life at the time. You know, I was 19 or 20. And so I moved here. I didn't know what the room looked like. I got there. It was like in a loft in Wicker with like one of those rooms that someone made out of like cardboard, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't supposed to be a room in the house. They just like put up a
partitions.
Yeah, exactly. It was so like the memories burned in my head. Is this cardboard with brick?
It's actually cardboard?
Like a in between cardboard and plywood, sort of like
flimsy,
and kind of different pieces. It was all like whatever they could find, and they had like the like image of bricks painted on them, so it looked like a brick wall, but like a cartoon brick wall. And I got there and I was like, sick, wow, I live in the city. I mean,
you're 20.
Yeah, it was like I didn't even care. Yeah, so it was cheap rent. I was able to live there, work in restaurants for many years, making my little songs. And then me and that person, you know, didn't end up staying together, but I stayed in Chicago just because, again, like, I don't know, similar, I feel like, to my folks. I end up in a place and I just kind of go with what happens, and ended up really loving it here with the musical community and different friends I made in restaurant industry and stuff too. So
yeah, it definitely mirrors your parents.
Yeah, I feel like similarly, which is like a huge blessing. I don't take for granted that they're not like, why aren't you going to school, or, you know, whatever. They were always just kind of like, figure it out. Yeah, they're like, if you can figure it out and pay for your life, that's okay, you know?
That's great.
Yeah.
We're going to listen to my favorite song of yours. This is People Watching from Cannonball.
watching, there's people watching Secret Santa. Are you gifted? People watching secret cameras. They keep the distance. When you tried, did it make the difference? We've been so dramatic. People watching, they're like, why you laughing? I'm like, why you trying? They're like, stop asking. I let a whole lot past me. When you tried, was it everlasting? Was it ever answered? The last thing that you ever asked me. People watching, I watch the people pass me. The people persons I don't get along with have the nerve to ask me, are you sure about this? Please don't worry about this. If you don't hurry, you won't never catch me. I said if you love me and you want me to stay, you just gotta give me the time of the day. You can always tell me how you want it to be. I just have a feeling about a couple of things. She told me that the pleasure and the secret you make is dealing with depression in a meaningful way. She came to the show and I practically beamed. She was dancing and laughing at me. I write songs everywhere I go, everywhere I land. I don't have a band, I don't need a band. I wrote songs in Japan on my grandma's baby grand. She was dancing, clapping her hands. And what do you do if the mirror is looking at you funny? Massachusetts maple syrup, you sweeter than honey. The sunny side of the street is 200 degrees in the summer. And I bet everything I have on it. I put a little Ramataz on it. I'm only sad when I'm mad, honest. A falling out will put you back on it. Hey, I said put a little back in it. But I make bad decisions, I make them all the time. We have inner demons, that's a hell of a find. They say a dirty kitchen is some kind of a sign. 20-something vision with my eyes in my mind. I said if you love me and you want me to stay, you just gotta give me the time of the day. You just gotta tell me how you want it to be. I just got a feeling about a couple of things. Time froze but kept count, I wasn't watching. I'm doing this my whole life, almost let it stop me. I wasn't comparing to them, I was just staring at me. I will not ask for the answer, I live in the question for cheap. Included utilities, who did you give the keys to? Elusive as the words to describe. I wasn't comparing to them, I was just staring at me. I will not ask for the answer, I live in the question for cheap. Included utilities, who did you give the keys to? Elusive as the words to describe how time in a dream moves. Time froze, I chose love, I won't budge. Most people I haven't met, I don't judge. Or at least that's what I tell me to do. Sometimes it happens if I'm telling the truth. I'm fine, I'm laughing, I'm aware I'm the fool. On the hill, by the valley, or the planet by the moon, I'm still feeling love. I said, do you love me, do you want me to stay? She just wanna smoke and watch anime. She can always tell me how she wants it to be. She just has a feeling about a couple of things. I said, do you love me, do you want me to stay? You just wanna give me the time of the day. She can always tell me how she wants it to be. I just have a feeling about a couple of things. She just said I love you cause he's fucking with me. She just has a feeling about a couple of things. Oh
Yeah, I really like that song. I feel like it starts like really dreamlike, you know, and then I don't know what the other instruments are
At the
besides
beginning,
the saxophone.
yeah, saxophone, bass, keyboard. I made everything on this one keyboard back then. This like Nord I got on Craigslist for super cheap that like half the keys don't work, and that was just like the sound that was on all my first records. And yeah, that intro's fun. It's like I've been told it sounds like Hey Arnold, which
Oh,
I mess with. I love Hey Arnold.
yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
I never thought about that though.
Good show with
Yeah.
morals. Every episode.
Yeah,
was
and
so,
it was like
uh,
diverse.
so much more diverse than most cartoons.
Yeah, and like reflective of like I feel like accurate city life. I don't know. I mean, I was like 8 years old.
They were
or
going through
whatever. Yeah,
real. I'm not trying not to cuss.
very good.
Real stuff in those episodes.
Yeah. I feel like when the other instruments come in though, it's like it wakes you up kind of like you're in this dream state, and it reflects the lyrics as in like it just feels like inner monologue.
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
like you're in like a dream state and you're like, damn, all these real thoughts are coming in now.
Totally. Yeah. I like, that song I think has somehow reached people more than most of my other songs. So like
It has like
I'm
2 million
always
plays on
wondering-
Spotify.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Over 2 million.
That's crazy. It's
Yeah.
it's just that something about it, I think, I don't know, strikes people. It's a very kind of honest song, I think, and I still like that about it, even though I don't know, it's hard to play older songs live. Like I appreciate there's something in there that's like very just raw and connects with people.
Yeah, and it's the last song on that album.
Mm-hmm.
When you play it live, is it as long?
Yeah, sometimes a little longer. We'll do like a little thing at the end, or I don't know. Sometimes I cut the intro though. It's tough because the intro is very like meandering and dreamy, like you're saying. So sometimes playing that with the band is a little tricky or not as fun. I don't know. It's one I've played it so many times because it's kind of the one that a lot of people know when they come to the show. So I've played it a lot of different ways, and I'm always like trying to figure out a new fun way to play it, and then I'm like, stop being an asshole. Like they just want to hear it the way that they like it. I don't know why.
Does it sound different than on the album?
Yeah, there's a few things. I mean, depending on what the band instrumentation is, it'll be different. Or I'll do it really stripped back, or it sounds better live, I think. Usually it's just more like less sleepy.
Yeah. I mean,
But-
I think people, at least it resonates with me because it's truly a sonic journey, I mean, I think that's always like the, what people want, or like, when artists release music, like what they want. But, you take us to a lot of places with a lot of instruments.
Yeah.
And a lot of thoughts,
Yeah, I feel that it is
Yeah.
kind of like a straight path. Like it's not a song that like repeats a lot, so it kind
Yeah.
of is like a sonic journey. That's a good term.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of your songs are like inner monologues, talking to yourself. I don't know.
Yeah, totally. Most of the time I'm talking to myself in the songs for sure. I don't really write songs about other people that much. Something about that, or I know it's normal, like most people do that, but I feel like it's just like the feeling is like when you're like, that's just not my business. Like
Yeah.
about other folks, I'll start writing and realize I'm like writing about someone or something or some situation, and I'm just like, I got my own shit to sort out. I could just think about what I'm dealing with, sort of, so that's how like most of my records ended up being so like interpersonal and really about like, I don't know, analyzing yourself, figuring out why you have certain patterns or how you want to build yourself up to be in the world. Like that's how a lot of it came out. But and then on the last record, on Diagnosis, was the first time I sort of decided that, okay, I had written like a couple albums and EPs about my own brain. Why don't I try writing about the outside world a little bit? And so that's probably like the biggest shift that's happened to me musically over the past, couple of years.
Interesting. I mean, I feel like you say you're not writing about other people, but you kind of are because it's all relatable.
Yeah, that's
So, I mean,
true.
it's the human experience,
Yeah,
right?
totally.
So-
I think that's how I try to keep it like, I try to write about myself with an open invitation for folks to like I don't know, relate or project their own thing
Yeah.
into it, sort of, just to leave it at least not so insular and like self-absorbed. But yeah,
Not
I'm
self-absorbed.
just I don't know. Yeah,
But I feel you.
I'm always thinking about that sort of. I'm like, is this song just like complaining about something
make
about
art-
me? Yeah,
To make art,
so in
you're
general,
narcissistic.
yeah,
like
right.
this
I always
is,
said
you
that.
know?
Yeah,
So
I always said the most selfish thing in the world is to be an artist. But
yeah, but like also selfless because you're
both.
sharing your art with the world.
yeah,
And that's
totally.
vulnerable.
I think it's a good
position.
balance. It's like a difficult balance
Yeah.
to weigh out in your head and feel like okay about, and that kind of makes it valuable, I think, because it's unanswered.
What is your songwriting process like?
It kind of depends. Like a lot of times I'm making instrumentals and just messing with new sounds, thinking they'll turn into songs, but it's really difficult for me to just like take a beat and like write something over it. But so a lot of times those I won't end up doing anything with, just I have all these like throwaway things, but the songs that end up getting completed are ones that like I'm just sitting with a guitar and something comes out and then I'm like, oh, that's the song. So a lot of them are on guitar recently for like Diagnosis and for the Bonk EP too. A lot of that was written on guitar, and I'll like make a beat around it, play all the instruments I want, and then try to like take stuff away because usually it's a little crowded, congested, and just like putting too much stuff in. And I'll rewrite lyrics a lot too. I do a lot of editing, so it's usually like
more
a
editing,
while.
more editing like the music and not the lyrics.
Usually, yeah, like for Diagnosis, yeah, it was a lot of like editing the recording project. I mean, that was the first time I recorded in a studio, so like I made the demos at home how I usually have been making music my whole life, and then brought it all to Friends of Friends studio, which is in Humboldt too.
Oh, okay.
That we re-recorded all the instruments too and most of the vocals. So that was the first time I kind of did the process that way. For Bonk, those were like songs I was working on for the same time frame for Diagnosis, but for one reason or another I couldn't ever feel like they were fully finished. So it wasn't until like after we did the record and did the tour that I sat back down and finished them at home. Kind of the old way how I used to make music. I can't remember the question now. I'm sorry. I've been rambling.
You're good. You're good. Just your songwriting process.
Yeah. So for Bonk, that was one where I went back and edited like some of the lyrics and stuff for the first time, because it was the first time I had taken songs that were from like a really old period, from like around the same time I started writing Diagnosis, and then sort of refurbished them.
Okay. Refurbished is
for like a later release.
yeah. Okay, cool. Next up is Bad State from Diagnosis.
At some point, you're gonna start losing your mind if you keep thinking about it. What are you so afraid of now? At some point, you'll have to start living your life instead of thinking about it, daydreaming about it. I know that you need someone to blame, so you always choose yourself. else would do the same, but you haven't asked for help yourself. Can you teach me how to climb? I keep on falling down to find I'm in a
So I was reading more about well, I guess actually I want to talk about how you said that you wrote Diagnosis about the outside world rather than, I guess internal feelings.
Yeah.
And I read it was more about themes of capitalism and I guess maybe working in the music industry or any industry that forces you to grow.
Yeah, totally.
At a rapid rate.
Totally, yeah. So like I was saying, yeah, the past records I had done before Diagnosis were super just like self-examination. And then, went through the pandemic and had a lot of time sitting at home and also sort of just time for the first time to process my experience in the music industry and things that were frustrating about it. And I found that sort of was the gateway for me to start thinking about all the ways in which everything is affected by capitalism. It's not just like, about the industry itself, but it's affecting our abilities to like connect with one another, to feel empathy with each other, or even like understand the effects of our actions and what the industry you're in actually promotes and creates. And also just, feeling a lot of difficulty with, just inherently being complicit in all that stuff. Like, I don't know. I think a lot of people feel uncomfortable in the industry with like music stuff because you have to be sort of like promoting your music and hoping that it's reaching people in the right way, sort of like, and I don't know, it's everything.
I mean, it's like a machine,
Yeah.
I'm like you feel like a cog in the system sometimes.
Totally. And that's such a like, broad thing. And ultimately what I ended up feeling about it was that like, it's not like if I quit music, I won't be involved in this like gross industry anymore. It's like the same thing you feel working at restaurants and talking to the owners of the restaurant group or whatever. You're just like, there's a huge disconnect between like the interests of any business and what the people running that business say they stand for. I'm not even like pointing fingers about it. It's like literally not about the people. It's about like
just how the system
mechanism
works. Yeah.
Like every business has to grow. So like there's never a point where a corporation that grows to a certain size can just be like, okay, that's enough. We're at a good place. We have like our staff and everyone's paid for and whatever. I mean, that's why everyone's getting laid off now from their tech jobs and whatever. Is like those companies have to continue growing. And so the only way they can go to the investors of their company and say, look, we're making this much money, we're saving this much money, is by cutting a limb off of the business. So they fire like whatever 100 people and they get to go to their boss and say, look what happened, we're saving money now. But that's not just in like corporate spaces, that's in everything. Like your album has to keep growing, your music has to get more listeners every time you release music. Like there are huge artists in the like indie sphere who like put out records that by all standard measurement are doing amazing, and like from the outside you're like, that record's blowing up, it's doing great, but like the label that put it out has to be doing better than the last record they put out. So they're calling the distributor like, we're not selling enough records, and it's like, you're selling as much as you can as an indie label, but it's never enough. Like it has to keep going. And that's how companies turn into these like whatever, like soulless monstrosities is because they can only prioritize growth and capital. And so then it's like the difference is so small when you really think about it. Like working with an indie label is just like working with a company that hasn't gotten large enough yet to be that evil or whatever. I mean, in everything, like an artist even like is only, I don't know, like on the same page as you morally until they grow to a certain point where that the pressure of keeping their company growing has like overpowered their ability to make decisions based on what they think is right and wrong, sort of. Like, I mean, people talk a lot about like why certain artists don't speak up for certain things, or, you know, like
Right.
being, I don't even know, like the beef stuff overshadowing,
Yeah.
you know, the genocide in Palestine and
The
the
Met,
students
like,
movement,
whatever.
the Met Gala and all this stuff. And it's like those businesses don't feel bad about not doing it. They don't have a choice, which is not to say that it's excused at all. It's just to say that like that system is inherently flawed. There's no way to engage with like the Met Gala and do it like the right way. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you're still wrapped up in it. It all has to be scrapped before like anything remotely on the same page is what I mean. And I'm speaking from one perspective. Like that's just what I feel when I look at this stuff. Like, I'm not saying that that's necessarily like correct or anything, but not to get into a rant, but
No,
you know,
you're good. Are you like speaking from personal experience as a label owner?
yeah, I mean, so I run Super Records in Chicago with Namdi and Glenn and Jess, our new owner too, and Steve, and it's a small label still, so we have a lot of room to like do things the way we think they should be done. And I will always try my best to make sure that the label remains that way, but like, I don't know, it's a fear in my mind because I've never seen it happen. Like, there's no great label or superstar artist who isn't compromised, you know,
Yeah.
morally. Like,
It's like playing the game. you know?
yeah. And if you
I mean, if you want to make money, you do certain things.
Right, exactly. And if you decide that you're not down to do those certain things, then you're not going to make that money.
Yeah.
And you'll just be out of the game. And that's good too. Like, maybe that's the right choice. But it's something I was thinking a lot about, like going into making my third album, which was Diagnosis, being like, am I going to do this again? Like, and it feels so silly because it's not like I'm like a huge artist with that much on the line in that sense, you know what I mean? It's not like whatever, like Taylor Swift deciding whether to
But
do
you
the
make
next
music
album
for different reasons or for your own reasons.
Totally. I fear that as long as you play the game, even like to a small degree, I get caught up thinking like, well, what is the purpose of playing the game? Right now it's harmless. There's nothing in my like business practice or artistic practice that disagrees with me like morally, but it's like, what is the goal? Is it to grow? Because then if it's to grow and get to the next level, it will inevitably get to that point where I'm making the decision to either keep growing or to cut it off and stop doing what I'm doing. And that balance is where the album came from. It touches on how that growth affects like climate change, even, you know, like our inability to stop, you know, selling plastic and every industry that's like whatever destroying the planet. It's like they can't stop. They literally can't stop because it's not up to a human being. It's like the system is that they have to make more money.
Just burn it all to the ground.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's kind of exactly where I ended up. It's just like I don't know.
That's how I feel too. But then again, that's like, you know, you're at an impasse again, because who's really gonna do that?
Right. And a lot of people would suffer from that too.
Yeah.
So it's a you know, catch-22.
Yeah, as you say in Diagnosis.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, it's all coming together.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, here's the live version of Diagnosis.
I feel like Miss America, I'm feeling gasoline. Watching commercials at the pump because they have a screen. Pick up my cigarettes and scratches for the ritual. working to afford to be another individual. I'm always feeling like that's not the way it's supposed to be. Until I get my little fix, I get my dopamine. We've been set up so we were kids, you where you're supposed to be. We've been set up so we were kids, you where you're supposed to be.
This is a diagnosis, and it's a catch-22. You live a long life doing what you have to do.
I feel like Miss America, I'm feeling blessed. Watching commercials at the park because they have. Pick up my cigarettes and scratches for the rest. Working to afford to be another individual. I'm always feeling like there's not the way it's supposed to. Until I get my little fix, I get my we can set up some kids, you ain't first. Right where you're supposed to be. It's not a diagnosis, it's a catch-22. You live a long life doing what you have to do. It's not a diagnosis, it's a catch-22. You live a long life doing what you have to do. You live a long life, feeling bad for being you. You run away from love, you don't even mean to. You ask a stranger in the mirror what they see in you. That's not what I want for you, you're so misunderstood. They want you thinking that you couldn't change the things you could. They like the way it works, too busy working and working out till you're in the dirt. Capital manipulates the labor. Make a bag, it feels like it'll save you. The money never acts against its nature. Fuck the cops, the banks, the legislature. Murderers, presidents, and mayors. Status quo, capital of life. Don't let them choose, they won't think twice. Don't let them choose. This is the die.
So I looked at the credits on this song. Kaina, Ryan the person, a couple other people. Maybe I know them, maybe I don't. I'm not sure. But what is your collaboration process like?
Before Diagnosis, I pretty much did everything at home.
Yeah, you said right. You said that.
Yeah, me and my partner Kaina work on both of our music together a lot, so it was sort of like unofficial collaboration in that way earlier on. But for this record, I really wanted to intentionally sort of bring the folks we'd been touring with into the recording process. So I demoed everything at home and then went to Friends of Friends, and Brock Mende, who's the engineer there, helped me sort of reshape those demos into studio recordings by bringing in our touring band. So yeah, Ryan Person played drums. He's been playing with excuse me and Kaina for years now. Kaina also was in the studio with us, helping out with vocals and with production notes. And then Michael Cantella, who plays bass with us, also was there for those sessions, playing bass on a few tracks. And yeah, it was really fun to do it differently. It just I'm able to feel so much less like self-conscious about it or something. Like usually I would finish a record and after it was done be like, oh, I hate it, I can never listen to it again, because it's like listening to your voice on a message machine.
Yeah,
I guess that doesn't happen anymore. That's now I'm like, no one leaves.
Sometimes I re-listen to my interviews and I'm like, cringe.
Right, same thing, where it's like to everyone else it sounds great.
Like you.
Yeah,
right.
It sounds normal, but you hear it back and you're like, who is that? Why do you sound that way? But I was playing everything too, so it was every sound. I'm like, oh, why does the guitar sound that way? Why does the drum, why is that all that way? I hate it, you know? And then bringing in the band to do it, now it's like, I love how those folks play and how they sing and everything. So it's like listening back to the record is so much more joyous for me now, because it's listening to my friends and also these songs that I care about at the same time. So
I really like the live version. It's really crazy.
Yeah, that one's fun. That was with the Diagnosis touring band. So Elijah Bradford and Kurt Shelby, who play in a lot of bands in the city, also were on tour with us. And Kaina and Ryan played for a Indie Rock Hit Parade session at WXPN. And it was like right at the perfect point, sort of towards the end of tour, where it was like we had played the songs a bunch, but we weren't quite like burnt out on them yet. That there's always like a sweet spot. There's like a show in the middle of the tour where you'll be like, oh, it's like, it's fresh, but it's not, but we're like locked in.
Yeah, no, I feel that. And why did you include the live version on Bonk?
It's just kind of a different arrangement than the studio one, and it's a lot more like rock leaning with less of the like beat production stuff in it, which we'd been doing on tour. And it's almost like kind of a little tongue-in-cheek how like rocked out it is, because that's never really been my thing. But
yeah, I know, I noticed that. I was like, I feel like I'm kind of there.
Yeah, it's very
Y'all
like
were shredding.
Wheatus,
I don't know who was shredding,
like Y2K rock sound, which like we kind of thought was like a little funny when we started doing it, but it just fits the like anger in the song so much that it started feeling right. And so I just wanted to have a recording of it, and we happened to do this radio session where it was just the perfect day for it. I don't know, some days you play songs differently, and there's so many different things that happened in that take that happen different every time we play, and they just like felt so, everything fell right into place in that take that we went in and did the whole session in one go, just like played the whole set through. I don't know, something about it was special. So I hit up the radio station afterwards. I was like, can I have that recording? I think something special happened that day, you know? Yeah,
no, it's cool. Perfect way to end Bonk.
Yeah.
Going back to Diagnosis, one of your songs has a verse in Japanese.
Yeah, Forsythia is like the second to last song.
I feel like there was a time in your career, maybe it was a while ago, like you toured in Japan. And I mean, you're half Japanese, right? Yeah. So why incorporate? Is that your native tongue, would you say? Or
I was learning around the same time as a kid, though my English has always been stronger. It wasn't actually till I went back to Japan when I was 6 that I like really got better at speaking. And so I still feel like writing songs in Japanese is always like practice for me to keep it sharp a little, and also to like explore expressing things through a different language, there's so much that can't be translated or just means something slightly different that like doesn't exist in this culture or something. A word that like could have a literal translation but feels different in Japanese.
I feel like a lot of languages are like that.
Totally, yeah. Like I feel like every language has something that when you're trying to translate it, you're like, it means this, but it kind of doesn't. Like there's a feeling, like an emotion attached to it that isn't attached to it in English, you know?
Yeah, like literal loss in translation.
Yeah, literally, yeah. Like it can't be communicated with a single word that same way. So a lot of times when I'm writing in Japanese, I'm looking for words like that because there's something really special to me about that. That getting lost in translation. And
Forsythia is the song. What are you saying in that verse?
I haven't sang that song in a minute. I'm like, what is the verse?
All good if you can't remember.
A lot of it actually is about that. It's talking about feelings that can't be expressed when translated. That's sort of
so kind of meta.
Yeah, it's a little meta. And the song is about the presence of different trees and flowers in my life over different periods of time. So forsythia is a yellow bush that grows. It becomes like massive and bright yellow just for a little bit at the beginning of spring, and then it turns green. And so it's this thing I always remember. It was outside of my house growing up.
In Massachusetts,
knowing it was spring when the forsythia blossomed. And now I live with Kaina in our home, and it's the first time I've like made a home since, you know, everywhere else I've lived since I was a teenager was like, you know, little artist loft or a kind of grimy apartment.
Transient, sort of.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't really home. So we've been in our home now for coming up on 4 years, I think. And there's a magnolia tree outside that I feel similarly about. It blossoms right at the top of spring. And looking out the window and seeing it, I feel the same, but I sort of developed, I don't know, it's just funny. Like you can see the full range of your life through these different experiences looking at nature. And then the Japanese verse is about sakura blossom tree in Japan, sort of imagining what things could have been like if I grew up there instead, and sort of that I would be looking out at a different kind of tree, feeling a different type of way, speaking a different language that I can't quite translate the feelings to English.
That's beautiful.
Nice.
So I'm a ride or die Cannonball fan, like front to back. Okay.
Debut.
This is Sections.
Final made it home. Believe a message at the tone. Beautiful balanced space to be in. I didn't miss it and I mean it. I know when I'll be frame of mind. It loves I told you so and fine. Beautiful stupid imperfection. Section. I know we'll catch up at the next one. Next intersection.
Wait. Yeah.
I was a minute away from wasting time again. I wasn't mine again. I was a minute away from wasting time again. I was a minute away from wasting time again. I wasn't mine again. I'm steady, you can go. That's the way, that's the road. That's the moment that it's over. Carry the weight on my shoulder. I cannot be any colder. I used to be so strong. Sometimes I wanna be sober. This is not one of those moments. I cannot be any colder. Happily into the wall. I got a feeling your head on the wall. Look at the ceiling and laugh at the past. You see right through me and saw me in half. Call her mom just to call you a cab. Angry as a letter is my star. Loving the too many courtesy call. You checking in and you checking me out. You got a list of people you wrong. You'll be alright. I couldn't be happier knowing you're here. Still here. Someone will be when the lightning strikes. Still here, still here, still here. The thunder whisper across me.
So this is your debut, Cannonball. Came out in 2018 via Super and 88 Rising. And that's the first album you dropped with Super. And that same year you became a cone. What have you learned in that time about running a label?
I've learned a lot. I mean, it's been a ride getting a like career in music going at the same time as a label. And you know, I had experienced some like being parts of collectives and seen some of that grow, but this was so much more like specifically a space for releasing music and putting out records and physical distribution and stuff like that I didn't know anything about before that. But I think the biggest thing for me, like working on the label side and then also just through that speaking to a lot of different arms of the music industry, is that like people who are at home doing their DIY music thing and putting out music themselves know so much more than they, I think, give themselves credit for. Like, you'll speak to folks at a, you know, very official music industry thing, and they are working with the same tools that the producer in their bedroom is. You know, it's like how to get views on TikTok, and
It's more about access, probably.
Yeah, exactly. So like I think like with labels, Glenn at Super has told me something he learned, I think, from some folks at Secretly maybe, that like the thing the label is really good at and has to prioritize being really good at is like utilizing momentum once lightning strikes on something. You know, the label and the DIY artist have the same tools for like catching lightning in a bottle. You never know what's going to happen. It's kind of a lottery in certain ways, what's going to catch online or whatever. They don't have more power at the label to like get your music to be what's cool. You know, you have the same access to that at home. And so like I think more and more people are finding that they're able to do that on their own. But you you know, obviously it makes a big difference to have like a company that can fund these artistic visions and whatever. Although like, you know, with a label, it's still the artist's money at the end of the day. It's a loan, essentially, like a no interest loan, because it all gets paid back through your record sales. So like, I feel like at a lot of different junctions that artists come across, whether it's like signing label deals, distribution stuff, even with venues and like performance contracts and stuff, it's so easy to forget that it all starts with the artist. There's no product if the artist doesn't make their music. All of these arms, the lawyers and A&Rs and everything, get paid regularly, so they have a lot more security financially than the artist, but their job doesn't exist unless all these people are making art, you know. And so it's so easy to feel as an artist like coming into those like very technical terms of things that like you don't know what to do, and you should just let these folks make these decisions for you. But I have learned over this time a lot that like we know a lot more than we give ourselves credit for, like what's cool and, you know, how to get music to people and stuff like that. Like that's all so much more about being tapped in as an artist or tapped in as a music lover or, you know, whatever. And so really what like you should be looking for if you want to be working with these different parts of the industry is people to fuel what you already have going, you know, not to like build it for you, because that doesn't ever work, you know?
Yeah. What how's owning a label informed your own music making?
I feel maybe the best thing I get out of it in terms of like what the label side affects my sort of artistic practice with is that I'm just constantly inspired, because I'm like working with artists who are up and coming and, you know, feeling excited to get their art out, and we can like create a space where they have the freedom to do that and they feel supported. And that makes me just seeing folks be like excited about it, because I'm a hater. I can get very jaded and
I mean, you're in Chicago.
like, yeah, you kind of have to be. But so it helps me to like work with other artists in that capacity where like we're making stuff happen that we thought was impossible. Whereas like on the artist side, I can get very like, why am I doing this? This whole world is messed up and I don't want to, you know, whatever. Helps me, I don't know, zoom out a little bit.
Yeah, I think I struggle with being jaded.
Yeah.
A lot.
Totally.
Yeah. Who are you excited about? Can you share?
In the city or
yeah, or just like,
general?
you know, if you're working, I don't know, if you're Super's working with people or you're
yeah,
working
totally.
with people.
We're in the middle of putting out Carlisle's music, which I'm super excited about. The Chicago legend who's been a part of different scenes in the city for a long time and is putting out their debut solo record. There's a bunch of stuff in the pipes, which I'm always
Am I allowed
not
to say?
totally sure when
yeah.
I'm allowed to talk about, but yeah, there's just so much good music in the city in general, like artists that I think have been sort of like quietly you know, chugging away at just the craft, like, because it's not a industry city like that. There's not like schmoozing to be done, you know. So something I love about Chicago is there's just like an endless amount of people that are just like about making art just to make it, you know.
It's interesting that I feel like maybe working at a label personally, I would feel more jaded, you know.
I do,
especially when you're like
sometimes.
exposed to all like the inner workings of the industry, you know, and you're just like, what's the point of whatever I'm doing?
Yeah, there's definitely gross stuff all around. I mean, not like every day you're running into that, but it's just a general vibe that like it's a business, and so it operates at the same sort of griminess as all like corporations. But being a small label, we have a lot of freedom to do things differently. So like wherever we can, those feel like they're small wins.
I mean, that's the cool thing.
That's like what makes it exciting for me is I'm like, oh, like this artist wants to do it this way. They're wondering why it's always done the other way. And I don't really have a real answer for them except that that's how it's done. So I'm like, fuck it. Let's do it your way. That's awesome, you know?
And so Namdi and Glenn started in 2016.
Yeah. They started a couple years before I joined in. Super was, Namdi, you know, has been in the Chicago music scene forever, playing in a bunch of different bands and a bunch of different scenes. And so before he was really doing his solo project full time, his band was Namdi's super secret side project with Super with 2 O's, and that's where Super came from. So they started it as like a tape label just for all the homies who had this great music but no outlet. And then it sort of grew from there.
So I guess he felt like there was a void he needed to fill.
I think Glenn Moore was like, we should do this
like in an official way.
Glenn is very like,
he's a lawyer, right? He's like very much
exactly.
about
He's
the paperwork.
Yeah, he's a MVP at Super for sure. Because I think without him, we would get jaded and just be like, fuck this. But Namdi, I think, had been through trying to start or starting different like small labels and collectives. And so at the time, he was saying that like he wasn't sure he wanted to get into that again, but he and Glenn sort of found a way to make it feel organic and right for the scene. And
yeah. Cool. Up next is Woof from your self-titled album.
Tired for pretending to be happy. Now I'm crying so loud that my dog is barking at me. I can't hear anything, I can't breathe. I must still be crazy, I must still be me. Smelling flowers at the grocery store. I am the one I pick them for. When I feel sick, what should I do? I used to call someone, but who? My moody blue, my face is fake. I skip my dues, my taxes paid. I hit my dance when I hit play. I'm fucking up, it's my big break. My back, it breaks for you. The cracks in pavement move beneath your feet. They land and wait for you. Mistakes were made, you choose. My heart on sleeve, leave me on read. I do not need an answer now. I know my question wasn't sweet, but it's important to me, please. How do you walk away from your shadow? You think you could talk it out? How do you keep track of the madness? You know what I'm talking about. What if it's all you ever get done about it? Talk about it till there's nothing but what's done. Okay, and we know what's done is done. Pity don't put nobody nowhere. I really don't see no way, no how. I put it someplace, I don't know where. I don't have the skills or the know-how. I don't wanna deal, wanna slow down. I don't wanna feel, life's too real. Dirty low down, on my knees in the hotel. If it ain't real, I'd rather try it out. I'm too tired for pretending to be happy. Now I'm crying so loud that my dog is barking at me. I can't hear anything, I can't breathe. I must still be crazy, I must still be me. What should I do? I used to call someone. How do you walk away from your shadow? You think you could talk it out? How do you keep track of the madness? You know what I'm talking about. What if it's all you ever get done about it? Is to talk about it till there's nothing but what's done. And we know what's done is done.
What kind of world are you building?
I don't know. That's a good question. What kind of world am I building?
Because I feel like artists get caught up in like incorporating too many genres and saying, and then maybe the listener, somebody says, oh, this doesn't make sense, like this doesn't have flow. But I always think of it as world building, and you're in your world and you're, I don't know, experimenting with different genres. I mean, I feel like you do it really seamlessly because of like how you know how you said you like learned the instruments in a certain way, and because like you learned it that way, like it all just like meshes together and really like in a really fluid
Thank
way.
you. That's super nice. I feel like there probably are some people that feel that way about my music. They're just like, it's
I mean, they're haters, like, you know.
We're in the haters circle, so respect. I respect the hate. I think that for me, like, not feeling pressured to make a certain type of sound forever has always been kind of important to me. So like each record is really different. Cannonball is very like experimental beats and jazz influence and a lot more of this kind of spoken word thing, and the self-titled record that came after that is way more like electronic pop, sort of like Woof is a lot more poppy and even like some country influenced stuff, and Diagnosis is way more of a rock record, and so I've always sort of just, I don't know, been excited by doing something new since I was a teenager. That's how I got into playing in all those different bands. So I feel like, yeah, it's just an open world. For me, like, I don't ever want to feel like I have to make the same song over and over again, you know?
Yeah.
Even if that might have made whatever, my career grow in a different way.
Yeah. For those, I mean, for each record, I mean, I guess you're like relying on skills, or, you know, you already know how to play these instruments in like a particular way. Were you like trying to learn more?
Yeah, for some of them, for like there's some like outtake song stuff I've dropped in between records where I was like trying to learn violin, and so like there's like squeaky little violins on things and stuff like that, and I never really got that good at violin, so I could still, maybe the next record. Yeah,
it all lends to the vibe.
Yeah, totally. But I feel like for Diagnosis, for sure, I was trying to get a lot better at playing guitar. The Diagnosis tour we did right after the record was the first time I played guitar live, like so that's been like a big learning curve for me. And someone at the New York show was like, you should just sing. Like, why are you, your guitarist is really good.
You were like playing backup guitar to your guitarist? Or
no, we didn't play any backing track stuff on the tour, which was also new for me. Like I had been doing the like click track, you know, band with the production element stuff for years before that, because the music was so like produced and there's all these sounds I couldn't get live. But for this record, because it felt like such a like live rock record, and we recorded it with the band live, so it's like I just wanted to be a little less tethered to the electronics. I also think like I have an electromagnetic like not a curse, but like a field of energy or something, because every time I play with like a laptop on stage or anything like really digital, it'll just like fry or short circuit or something awful will happen. So like I find it to feel a lot safer if it's just me and the band, and if anything happens we can like sort it out live. You know, we know how to play around those things.
Well, with the full band you have more moments to like jam out, you know?
Yeah, totally. It's more fun to be able to like extend sections, and folks can take solos and
what's next?
I'm doing a tour mid-June to early July on the East Coast, doing Ohio, DC, Philly, New York, Mass, Vermont, Portland, Montreal, Toronto, Detroit.
Wow.
Paw, Michigan.
You memorize all of those? Paw,
Michigan. Well, I've had to write it. Yeah, Paw is such a cute name for
a city. Is that a college?
I think it's a city.
No, but I mean, you're playing... I mean, I've never heard of that place.
Me neither. Okay. Until this tour. I mean, yeah.
And that's your tour?
Yeah, so I'm doing a headlining tour, June through early July. And I'm really excited. It'll be the full band again, and I love getting to travel with my friends and play the songs, especially on the East Coast. Like, I have family there and stuff, so I don't know. I'm excited for that.
Cool. Well, last song, we're closing out with Love Money Part 2.
worth any more than a penny. Love, isn't it funny? Honey, Massachusetts maple syrup. Love, money, I don't wanna need it, it's all that I need. It isn't that hard to believe. I call it depressing, I call it a blessing. None of it matters when you call me. Pods and peas, bumping system, sovereignty, misdirected urgency. What's the real emergency? Smell the flowers, they aren't cheap, but they feel magic and I believe. Broke was hard, broken hearted. What do you need and what does it mean? Love, what's that mean to you? Money, what's that mean to you? Do you need it? Do I need it too? Love, what's that mean to you? Money, what's that mean to you? Do you need it? Do I need it too? Love, what's that mean to you? Money, what's that mean to you? Do you need it? Do I need it too? What's that mean to you? What's that mean to you? Money, money, let's pretend it's not pretend. I can see you lost it, I know I will by the end. Something's got me cautious and I do not know you. Money, 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 let's pretend it's not pretend. Money, 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 let's pretend it's not pretend. I can see you lost it, I know I will by the end. Money, 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 let's pretend it's not pretend. Something's got me cautious and I do not know your friends. What's that mean to you? Money, what's that mean to you? Do you need it? Do I need it too? Love, what's that mean to you? Money, what's that mean to you? Do you need it? Do I need it too? Love, what's that mean to you? Money, what's that mean to you? Do you need it? Do I need it too? What's that mean to you? What's that mean to you? What's that mean to you?
Thank you, Sen, for joining me today, and thank you to everyone for tuning into Something Slight. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Young Noodle Cup. That's YUNG Noodle Cup, and Private Stock Studios on Instagram and Twitter at PVTSTCK. And where can they find you?
I'm on social media all over. I think on Instagram it's at Sen_Morimoto, and on, streaming services, Sen Morimoto. It's my name and the artist name as well.
We'll be back on May 29th for our next episode.